So I think that the only shot we have left in terms of stabilizing the global economy is to get real estate made properly formally liquid. $730 trillion worth of assets, $2 trillion worth of transactions a year for things like hotel room bookings, 2 trillion a year. Uh, Actual house purchasing is about maybe 3 trillion a year, and then you've got this just enormous sack of $730 trillion worth of collateral. If we moved to a system where the backing for currency was real estate, and there are a variety of ways we could do for doing that, that has a much better probability than gold of resulting in a fairly stable system, and also because it has a much, much, much broader ownership profile than gold, better Gini coefficient if you like. If we were to move towards an asset-backed economy with real estate as the underlying asset, there are a lot more people that would be accepting of that as a conclusion because they own a reasonable amount of real estate. And those kinds of measures, the US has done stuff that crazy, I don't know, three, four, five times in its history already. And we are very, very jammed up against the dollar. The dollar is in deep pain. And it's also an international issue where the BRICS system versus the dollar is super destructive because neither one of those systems has a fundamental solution for economies. And this is where we start looking back to folks like Henry George and the Bancor stuff from Keynes. And, we've got to do a really fundamental rethink on what money is. If you take something like an exchange traded fund, you've got many, many, many billions of dollars of real estate in a publicly traded company format, so you can buy and sell the equity in the exchange in the real estate investment fund really simply, right? So if I have a publicly traded REIT, to all intents and purposes, I could use publicly traded REIT equity as a payment token, apart from the fact there's a bunch of kind of annoying regulation in the way of that. So if we simply said, look, it is considered legal to pay each other in publicly traded REIT equity, you can value it at the spot price or you could agree a different price for it, but we're just going to decide that that stuff is not a security for the purposes of payments, you could immediately have people using large publicly traded REIT equity as a stable store of value that they could also use for making payments, and then you could pile that stuff behind things like dollar coins if you really wanted to. So it's not that you have to do something crazy radical to turn real estate into money, you just have to remove a couple of regulations around publicly traded REITs.